one. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange who?
Aren't you glad you came to Lectures Conference?
Yeah.
You know, that was good, but it could have been a little louder. So let's try one more for practice. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange who?
Aren't you a wonderful audience? Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to my MC, Gordon Gibson.
Thank you, Marge. This year, more than any other recent year, the question keeps coming up. Why is Connecticut's color orange? We decided to do a little research. We can trace the color back over 50 years. To most of us, Connecticut is known as the Constitution State. Our state's first constitution was written in 1638, 1639. It's known as the Fundamental Orders, and it's considered to be the first written constitution in history. And though this claim has been disputed by some, it remains a landmark document. And it's thought that many of the features of our federal constitution were drawn from this document. Others call Connecticut the Nutmeg State. Nutmeg, the powder used for seasoning foods, is ground from the seed of the fruit of the nutmeg tree. A couple of stories exist as to the origin of this nickname. One story has it that this nickname came about as a comment on the ingenuity and shrewdness of the citizens of the state. It's been claimed that the people of Connecticut were so ingenious and shrewd that they were able to make and sell wooden nutmegs to unsuspecting buyers. Variation on this story maintains that the purchasers did not know that the seed must be ground to obtain the spice, and may have accused Yankee peddlers unfairly of selling worthless wooden nutmegs. May also be that the wooden nutmegs were whittled by the island sailors on the ships coming from the Spice Islands and were intended to be sold as souvenirs. So now you're probably asking, well, what's all this got to do with the color orange? Well, somewhere back in time, a Connecticut state lecturer said that nutmegs were orange and that it should be our state color. I'm not going to tell you what color they are. Personally, I think they're brown, but not orange, but you decide for yourself. There's some pasted to all your song sheets, so while you're at it, don't they just smell great? And they remind us all of fall. Also, speaking of the color orange, I want to thank Maine for contributing to our orange today. This shirt that I've got on is an official Maine Turnpike shirt. This is one of the shirts, no kidding around, this is one of the official shirts that the inspectors and the supervisors are required to wear when they're out on the job on the turnpike for safety reasons. They are required to wear these shirts. The only problem is, I still have to pay the tolls like the rest of you. It takes some imagination to bring more orange into our lives. In fact, 7 old ladies will never forget these orange objects. You've got oh, dear, what can the matter be? 7 old ladies walking the ladder. They were there from Monday to Saturday. Nobody knew they were there. The first to go in was the minister's daughter. She went into passing superfluous water. She pulled on the chain, and the rising tide caught her, and nobody knew she was there. Oh dear, what can the matter be? 7 old ladies walking the lavender. They were there from Monday till Saturday. Nobody knew they were there. The second old lady was old Mrs. Humphrey. She sat down and made herself comfy. She went up to get up and couldn't get her rump free. And nobody knew she was there. Oh dear, what can the matter be? 7 old ladies walked in the lavender. They were there from Monday till Saturday. Nobody knew they were there. The third old lady was
nobody knew she was there. The last to go in was Emily Clancy.